You know, Brian and I would like to close out the show with a little thing we do called Real or Not. And
Hmm.
we are going to do that this week in talking about Real or Not. Um, I want to start off. I think I got some decent ones for you this week, Brian, that I think is going to be really interesting. Just want to make sure I got my notes correct on this for you. Okay. Knicks. If you have to, because this is nitpicking zone right here, folks.
Sure. Yeah.
If you got to nitpick on something with the Knicks offense right now, it's that they don't get to the line a lot. Okay. They don't get to the line a lot. Free throw rate, not great at all.
Yeah.
19.3 free throws attempted per game. That is 29th in the NBA. Okay. So very low. However, I'm going to just to play devil's advocate here. Do you need the free throw rate to be that good when you're making a whole bunch of shots and your offense is that efficient? I'm not sure that's the case. But is this free throw rate being as low as it is, Brian? Is it real or not? Do you think this changes? I mean, it could get worse and go down to 30th, or do you think that it actually gets better here and goes up? What do you think about this Knicks free throw attempt rate? Is it real or is it not? Is it changing? What's going on?
Surprised that it's actually this low, considering that you have guys who historically can get to the free throw line, particularly your top two scorers. In terms of whether or not you can win a championship like this, I mean, Boston doesn't get to the free throw line a ton, but they also make a ridiculous and shoot a ridiculous amount of 3-pointers. So they're probably an outlier. I feel like generally, yeah, you got to get downhill at some point. You need some variety in your game. And what's helping the Knicks right now is that despite them not having a high free throw rate, they're second in 3-point percentage, shooting 40% from three this season. I don't know if that's going to, sustain itself, but I do think they could be one of the top 3-point shooting teams over the course of the year because of how they play and because Karl-Anthony Towns in particular is such an elite spacer at the 5. And then also you have in terms of free throws. Now, they're 27th in makes, 29th in attempts, and free throw rates 29th, but they're top 3 in free throw percentage right now, 82%. They have guys that can make free throws, which to me is actually more incentive to try to get to the line. So I think what's real is that the free throw attempt rate will improve a little bit, but I do think you're going to have to improve that a little bit and get to the line more because, one, why wouldn't you if you're such a good free throw shooting team? And two, unless you're going to start shooting 53s a game like the Celtics, you got to get to the line a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that matters. I'm glad you brought up the free throw shooting percentage. I think that's a really good point in how good the Knicks are in shooting the free throw, and this is why I should encourage you to want to get it up. I think this trends upward a little bit. I think as Jalen Brunson gets a little bit more comfortable, he has a penchant for drawing fouls. I think you see some of that change. So I'm in agreement with you. It's not something I am terribly concerned about. I think it's something to keep an eye on, though. I'm a little shocked at how low it is. Now, speaking of Jalen Brunson, moving on next. Jalen Brunson is right now averaging 7.3 assists per game this season. Career high 6.7. Before the season started on an episode of New York Got Game, I talked about Jalen Brunson, and I liked him to go over 6.5 assists per game this season as a bet for the season. I thought it'd be a really good bet for people. Kevin Walsh Jr., who joined me, also liked this from Sports Grid. He thought the same thing. Yo, we talked about this. He's out here dropping dimes right now, okay? He is dropping dimes right now. We saw 10 last night. Is this real or not? Do we see Jalen Brunson averaging over 7 assists per game this season? Is that something you see staying up? Can he get this up to 8? I mean, dare we say, he's at 7.3. So we round down, it's at 7, but could he get this up to 8? Like, how are you feeling about this? Is this real? The Jalen Brunson passing, is it real?
I think the 5-out offense kind of makes it real. The assists per game are career high right now. I don't think that's crazy given that it's not up by like a super dramatic amount. Where like Karl-Anthony Towns, if you look at the spike in his numbers, it's like, whoa, I don't know if he's going to do 26 and 12 all year long, even though there's a pathway to him at least doing maybe 24 and 10 or something along those lines,
okay.
Right? Maybe even a little better than that, to be honest with you. But right now, Jalen Brunson, 7.3. It was 6.7 last year. And honestly, like, you swap in Karl-Anthony Towns for Julius Randle, I mean, there's going to be more catch and shoot opportunities just from a basketball standpoint, because with Julius Randle, I mean, he likes to play with the ball a little bit more. Karl-Anthony Towns does too, but in a different way. And I do think we'll see more of an evolution to the two-man game that those two have. So I have reasons to believe that this number is going to sustain itself.
I agree. I thought this was going to happen at the beginning of the season. I don't have too much more to add but that. I thought this was going to happen. I thought Jalen Brunson's assists would go up. I'm not surprised by this. Maybe I'm a little bit surprised at the assist to turnover ratio. That's probably a little bit more of the surprise, considering how much he has the ball in his hands and how much defense he sees. The turnovers being down are the things that I like. We'll probably get into that, and as that sample size gets bigger on that. Okay, last one for me. Your boy, Josh Hart, on fire from downtown. Okay. Shooting 45% from three-point range during the Knicks 4-game winning streak, shooting 42% for the Knicks over their last 9 games. That is just on about over 3 attempts per game. Is this real or not? Is Josh Hart going to continue to shoot lights out from downtown, Bryan? He's been doing a good job. Look, for me, I'll say this before you start. I just want him to take the open shots when he has it. That's all I wanted to see. Like, can you take these open shots when you have it and not be hesitant? He hasn't done that. Do you think this shooting that we're seeing from him is real?
And I'm going to tell the viewers, keep dropping in comments because we'll wrap with those after this last reel or not, and then we'll get out of here. But in terms of Josh Hart, the three-point shooting, and this is something I wanted to bring up because we were texting about this right before we got on. 42% from 3 in his last 9 games. Now, it's only on 3.4 attempts, but 3.4 attempts from 3 for Josh Hart, like, you'll take that. There are games where he doesn't want to shoot like that. He even talked about this, before last game or whatever the case may be, or after last game rather. But 42% from 3 in those last 9 games. I do think that he can make threes at a reasonable clip. Like, for a season, can you get 38% out of him, so to speak, or something along those lines? It's just a matter of the attempts. And over the course of his career, like, there are examples of him putting up 4 or 5 threes a game, and for whatever reason, he got away from that a little bit. And then in Portland, that short stint that he had there, he was jacking them up a lot. But at the same time, when he got to the Knicks, the volume had decreased tremendously, where he was putting up 2 threes a game. I don't know if you can sort of get away with that, because you know what's going to happen in the playoffs. They're going to sag off of him. There's going to be the guy that they sort of target from that perspective. So I think he needs to shoot him, but I think he can shoot a reasonably high percentage, like 37, 38%. And if he can't, then, that makes him like sort of difficult when you're figuring out what the rotations are going to be in the playoffs. He obviously be in the rotation, but will he close every game? Is going to be a question. But he does so many elite things. Like, Josh Hart is one of my favorite role players in the NBA. Yeah. He does so many like great role player things, like in terms of just the rebounding, the defensive versatility, getting downhill. He's elite at making twos, which is, not a small thing, right? So I just want him to continue to shoot maybe 3-4 threes a game, and he could make a decent percentage of them. It makes him just more playable. And obviously, Tom Thibodeau will find any excuse to play Josh Hart 40-plus minutes.
Yeah. I think the point that you bring up that's a really good one is, can he get those attempts up, right? Just a little bit more volume out of him. Can we get that to 4 to 5 threes a game? If we start seeing those attempts up and he's getting the confidence in taking those threes and he's making what Bryan says about that 37, 38%, I think that's really good. I think that's fantastic for the Knicks. So I don't know if I'll say real in terms of the 45% during this winning streak. Maybe it drops down a little bit. I think it gets a little bit below that, but I'd like to see those attempts go up.